What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. You all know Boris Johnson's deal was announced yesterday and caused Remoaners to go into a new meltdown. Most, including myself, did not see him getting a deal, but he did, so I was wrong there. Now, as all of you know, I am not a lawyer and never will be one. But my take on the so-called great new Boris Johnson deal is, yes, it's better than the Maybot deal, but it's still not the great new deal Boris Johnson calls it. I would call it a mediocre sort of new deal that semi-rehashes Maybots. But it is not the complete sellout her surrender treaty was. It is also far from a clean break Brexit, but there is a possibility that it could lead to one for a few reasons. Hence why the Remoaners are in complete meltdown. Now, from what I can tell, it's largely based around a free trade agreement being done. If there is no FTA, then a consent mechanism comes in place for Northern Ireland and continues with a two-custom union system until such time as Northern Ireland votes against it on a 4 or 8 year basis. So, it's definitely not the Brexit people voted for, but it is Brexit in some ways, such as it does give us control of our waters, though from what I can tell, the EU will still be able to fish in them as part of any free trade agreement, so the fishermen are rightly pissed off right now, which was reported in the Express earlier. As far as I can tell, our laws will be made by us, which is a good thing. That should mean no more interfering ECJ to worry about. It also ends free movement on November the 1st, which is something we all wanted and was vital. The UK will also be out of the single market and customs union, but NI is in both customs unions like I said earlier, with a sort of softish border between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK, once again probably relying on a free trade deal to make that obsolete. The new political declaration also changes a few things, but most importantly the wording on defence from Maybot's treaty that said the parties, meaning the UK and EU, will enable cooperation on defence across various things. The new Boris Johnson deal has been changed to the parties will consider working together on future defence projects, which is a shite sight better than Maybot's we will enable nonsense, especially when people like Guyver Hofstwat are tweeting about the need for an EU army because America is not a reliable ally anymore due to the God Emperor Donald Trump. My guess is the Hofstwat suffers from Trump derangement syndrome also. So while it is better than Maybot's deal, it's not perfect. Let's hope the government do scrap any idea to use British forces in an EU army with that change of wording, because in something like this, wording is key. Aside from that, it's essentially the Maybot deal with slight improvements, meaning I am no fan of the deal at all from what I know of it, but I will admit it's not a complete capitulation by the looks of it. Once again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know none of this for an absolute fact, but from my taking from it, it doesn't look like a complete capitulation, luckily. We also have to remember it has now forced the Remoaners into a possible checkmate regarding Brexit, not only because the deal could pass. If they reject the deal after all screaming for one, the country will see that they're all just trying to stop Brexit. This is likely why last night they was in complete meltdown, arguing amongst themselves about what they can do now to stop Brexit. They never thought Boris Johnson would get a deal, so banked on getting an extension. That might not happen now unless their amendments can change it tomorrow or the EU vetoes it, which is possible. I mean, yesterday it got so bad that some factions within the Remoaner alliance spent most of the day toing and froing from a second referendum idea to the main idea they are now pushing, which involves securing the Benn Act by forcing the Prime Minister to seek an extension even if his deal passes the House of Commons tomorrow, because they are worried that Boris himself could scrap the deal close to Halloween and go out on October the 31st without a deal as a final fuck you to the Remoaning shitweasels in Parliament, especially given that the French Prime Minister Emmanuel Macron has come out saying he would veto a Brexit extension if Parliament rejects this deal. Now, of course, the issue with the Remoaners tabling these amendments is that they will likely pass them and force either an extension using the Benn Act to push the deadline back or a second referendum, even though Boris Johnson has a deal and even if it passed through Parliament. Now, the Telegraph posted an article reporting on the complete disarray within the Remoaner alliance last night, and Twitter is currently alive with this story, so let's take a look at it. The article headlines, Remainer MPs in disarray as confusion reigns over plans to force a vote on a second referendum. The Remain alliance appeared in disarray Thursday night as MPs failed to agree on a plan of action to thwart Boris Johnson's Brexit deal. After an initial plan to try and force a vote on a second referendum faltered in the afternoon, a new plan was being formulated in an attempt to force Mr Johnson to ask Brussels for a Brexit delay, even if his deal gets through Parliament. The group of Labour MPs, Lib Dem and People's Vote backers have decided against tabling a second referendum amendment on the deal. Instead, the group of MPs, led by Hilary Benn, plan to table an amendment on Saturday that would strengthen the powers of the Benn Act. At present, the Act requires Mr Johnson to ask for an extension if he cannot get MPs to vote for his deal. Guto Bebb, one of the 21 Tory rebels who has committed to a second referendum, said, "The Prime Minister deserves an opportunity to put this deal to the House unencumbered. We don't think a confirmatory vote on Saturday helps." They now plan to table a technical amendment to strengthen the Benn Act. Mr Beebe said there are some people in the ERG saying they might vote for it on Saturday and not for the bill next week to get around the Benn Act. We're not taking any risks. The amendment would force Mr Johnson to send a letter asking for a Brexit delay, even if he wins the vote on his deal. Mr Bebb said it's an insurance policy that would be negated if the legislation for the deal passed in time for October 31st. On Thursday morning, there were initial plans to table a confirmatory vote amendment by Labour MP Phil Wilson and Peter Kyle, who had been drafting the text for weeks. The proposal that appeared to carry the most support was for a so-called confirmatory referendum, which would see MPs vote through the deal, provided it was then put to the public against the option of Remain. Mr Wilson said he was ready to put down his amendment at the appropriate time. He said he had the full support of the Labour front bench. However, Mr Wilson said the situation changes by the hour. Soon after Mr Johnson agreed the deal with Brussels, splits began to emerge among the Remain alliance. One MP said the People's Vote have quickly realised there is no appetite among their supporters to push it through on Saturday. I don't think even their supporters were on side. As long as we don't lose the Benn Act provision, it is important to see on Saturday whether the PM's deal can pass. So that just goes to show how much the PM's deal has actually put a spanner in the works for these Remainers. They really don't know what to do with themselves. They're clamouring at the bit now to try and stop MPs within the Tory party from circumventing the Benn Act. Mr Bebb said the majority of the 21 will vote for the deal. Some of the group are suffering significant buyer's remorse and want the whip back. The only thing we all agreed with is we wanted to stop no deal. The majority of 21 Conservative rebels who lost the Tory whip are now expected to vote for the deal. Sir Oliver Letwin called it admirable and said he would be voting in favour. David Gauke, Stephen Hammond and Greg Clark said they would vote for the deal. So it goes to show the Remain Alliance guys is all over the place. Other Remain Alliance MPs are on the fence about whether to vote for it, including Amber Rudd, who said she was still thinking about it, probably while eating some of that humble pie after saying that Boris wasn't even trying to get a deal. Meanwhile, the government cast doubt on whether any second referendum could be forced through. Michael Gove, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, told the BBC's Politics Live show that ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna be no second referendum. There is no way that we are having a second referendum. I hope he can stick to that, because if these fuckers try it, they might well try it, and you know that Burkuck will help them. And if he can help them do it, then it's possible the government might not be able to stop it. He seems to have more power than the government at the moment. Pressed again on whether MPs could vote for it, Mr Gove said they aren't going to. They are not going to. Let's hope so, but I wouldn't be surprised with our Remoaner Parliament. The Labour Party are pulled to pull in different directions on the second referendum. Welcome to the Labour Party. That's what they do. They're all over the place when it comes to Brexit and most of their policies. Mr Corbyn told reporters that while the best way to resolve the Brexit deadlock was to give the people a final say in a public vote, he did not suspect a vote on the issue would arise on Friday. However, he also described reports that Labour could back such a vote as high-level speculation on a hypothetical question. And that's essentially it there. They're just talking shit about Labour and crap at the end of it. And there's the poll saying that Boris likely will get this deal through. But like I said, the Remoaners are trying their best. So as you can see by that, they don't know what they're doing. They're in absolute shit fits about what to do next. They don't want a deal because they don't want to leave. But the Remoaners are worried that Boris might circumvent the Benn Act after the 19th should this deal pass and take us out with no deal come the 31st of October. I mean, it is possible, and it would explain why the ERG are supporting it, but it could also be wrong, and Boris wants his deal to go through. I don't think tomorrow will be the big D-Day that many hope it will be though. We could have second referendums extension, and who knows what else tacked on with amendments tomorrow to this deal. Nothing is beyond this snivelling shitweasel Remoaners, guys. Until Boris or a Brexit supporting government has a healthy majority in Parliament, the Remoaners can take control like they did with the Benn Act to bring about more dither and delay. The SNP want an extension and a general election, which is one of the amendments tabled tomorrow, because I guess they think that they will win somehow. That would actually bring about a Tory majority government with Brexit Party MPs in Parliament ready to push Boris towards a much more WTO-like Brexit, if a WTO Brexit was not something Boris did in that situation anyway. A majority in Parliament makes all the difference, but until such a time, never underestimate these traitors who want to block Brexit altogether. Anything is possible right now. Tomorrow, we will know a little bit more at least. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. I want to thank the channel's PayPal, Patreon and Subscribe members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Links to all my social media and our Discord will be down in the description below, so check them out. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below as always. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
Parliament is a dead parliament. It should no longer sit. It has no moral right to sit on these green benches. They don't like the truth. Twice they have been asked to let the electorate decide upon whether they should continue to sit in their seats, while they block 17.4 million people's votes. This Parliament is a disgrace, but they're too cowardly to give it a go. But the time is coming. The time is coming, Mr. Speaker, when even these turkeys won't be able to prevent Christmas.
And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.